This was before Apple came along, before the iPad and so on. Every laptop had a sticker. It said Intel inside. That company was enormously successful. At that time, it had a CEO named Andrew Crowe. And Crowe wrote a business biography that has a wonderful title. The title is Only the Paranoid Survive. And what he meant by that was, listen to your amygdala. He says in his business biography, there were 2 times when our company faced what he called a valley of death. They might have gone out of business. They didn't see that other companies, in Japan particularly, were making their chips more cheaply and were going to take over that business. They released a chip, a Pentium chip it was called, that had a flaw in it. They had to recall it. He says, the key to our survival as a company was how the top management team handled their emotions. If we had panicked, if we had ignored it, we'd be out of business today. So for top leaders, it's extremely important to be able to manage your emotions. One definition of maturity is lengthening the gap between impulse and action. The more mature you are, the more you give yourself a chance to think over how you're going to respond before you make that response. So the next one I want to talk about is achievement orientation, or the drive to achieve. This means that people reach for their goals. This is absolutely essential in any business situation. And for you coaches, these are some of the characteristics. People with this competence seek out challenges. They love performance feedback. They see it both as a way to keep score and also to change how they're doing if that feedback isn't good. They like to learn how to do better. These are people who are constantly raising the bar for the challenges, for goals. I knew someone who was a perfect example of this. Her name's Susan Butcher. Susan was extremely, I say, one of a kind. She won a race in Alaska called the Iditarod. In Brazil, it might be very hard to imagine this, but this is a race where you go with your dog team. It's a sled, and there are 10 dogs, and you're telling them, go, go, go. This lasts usually 7 to 10 days, and it goes over 1,100 miles of Arctic ice. Can you imagine Arctic ice here in Sao Paulo? Very hard. Think about the ice cube in the refrigerator and multiply it by several million. That's what they have. So Susan won this race 4 times. That's unusual. First of all, it was a woman. Usually it's a guy that won. But second of all, it was because she tried something that had never been done before. The usual way someone did this race was you drive all day and you rest at night. You rest yourself, you rest your dogs. Susan went day and night without stopping, except to feed her dogs. Everyone thought that was crazy. But Susan practiced and practiced and practiced. She knew she and her dogs could do it, and she won 4 times in a row. Entrepreneurs very often do something which to other people's eyes look ridiculous, look crazy. But to them, they know the risk is a smart risk. They know they can do it. I remember years ago, I did some research on how to identify entrepreneurs. It's very simple. There's a game called a ring toss. You set a peg. You can determine how far it's going to be and you get a ring, and you have to toss it so that it goes over the peg. If you miss, you get no points. If you hit it, you get points. People who are very cautious put it very close. They get a lot of points, but because it's so close, not that many, because that also matters. People who are very careless, who take foolish risks, set it way out where they'll get a lot of points if they hit it, but they miss. Entrepreneurs take a smart risk. They put it at a point where they know they can make it, but further out than most people. And that's the characteristic. So one of the most important abilities, coaches, for an entrepreneur is being able to know what your capacity is, what you know that other people don't, or what you can do that other people don't, and then using that in a business risk. By the way, McClellan, who I mentioned before, used to teach these skills to people who wanted to be entrepreneurs. He did it in India, for example, and he found, coming back 5-10 years later, that those people had learned how to think like an entrepreneur, how to increase this competence. And for coaches, this is so important, because what it says is that these abilities aren't fixed. They're learned and learnable, and I'll get to how to teach them best in a little bit. Another one is positive outlook. People with this competence see the best in people, see the best in events. They actually are able to persist despite setbacks or obstacles. They see an opportunity where others see a devastating setback. They believe change in the future will be for the better. Sometimes this is called a growth mindset. There's some research that was done at a university in the States on pessimists who don't have this ability and optimists. And they found that pessimists tend to think in two ways about frustrating setbacks. They said, first of all, that's never going to change. And second of all, I don't have the ability to change it in the first place. Optimists think very differently. They think, well, that's temporary. Things will shift. And they also say, I have the capacity to make a difference about this anyway. So they keep going. Winston Churchill said, a pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. Then there's adaptability. That's been called agility these days. It's been rebranded. It means you're flexible in handling change and in how you think about things too. You adapt to new realities. You have innovative ideas. You focus on your goals, but you can adjust how you get there. You're comfortable with uncertainty. You have a lot of curiosity. It's a very important competence. We've done research. My partner, Richard Boyatzis at Case Western Reserve, has followed people 20 years later who've been evaluated in these competencies, and he found people high in adaptability have the best career success, the best career satisfaction, and the best success in life.